Alright, we are on the draw with some Rug Delver. How good is this hand? We're going to have to visions into our green source, and without the green source this hand is really bad. I kind of don't want to keep it. I know I keep one-landers with visions, but this one just looks too reliant on finding that land, and I think there's just better stuff we can get. Naturally, this isn't said better stuff. But if there was a land in this hand, it would be quite good. This definitely is not your average 6, so I'm not going to weigh our mulligan decision against that. I like this hand probably better than the first hand we had, just because we're more in control. We have the ability to interact even if we don't hit the second land drop, which is kind of, I wouldn't say underrated. We definitely want that breeding pool because now we do have the second land drop. It's something to look out for. Being able to cast bolt effects without finding a certain land is pretty good. Here's a lava spike, which is going to make me pretty happy to have mulliganed into a hand with bolt effects. Chances are we're playing against a burn deck. Might just be Boros, might not. It is unfortunate that we're going to fetch shock here. We're probably not going to shock with this breeding pool, just so that we can keep our life total somewhat intact. Vapor Snag's not great. Snapcaster Mage, likewise, I almost want the Thought Scour. We're going to have 2 cards in our graveyard after this vision's resolved. We can shock, scour, and mandrills, which isn't the worst. On the other hand, we want to be interacting anyways, so I think we may as well just bottom it. We're looking to put cards in the graveyard in a more well, I wouldn't even call it more streamline, given that Thought Scour literally just puts cards in the graveyard, but a more organic way, let's say. We're going to achieve the same end just by playing Magic. Second Lava Spike. It looks like our opponent doesn't have any creatures. That could either be a good thing or a bad thing. It's pretty unlikely we want double red next turn, so I think we're just going to do that. The way this is shaping up, I actually would have preferred having the Thought Scour on top, but of course, we didn't know our opponent wouldn't have a creature yet, and now they do. Which makes it very unfortunate that Forked Bolt is not an instant. We actually might Vapor Snag that. I don't hate Vapor Snagging the Goblin Guide. It's going to save us a touch of life. Put an extra card in the bin. I'm actually going to do that. Chances are they're going to put that Goblin Guide right back down, which means we'll be able to Forked Bolt it next turn anyways. Hitting Misty Rainforest is pretty nice because we can fetch with it. Have Mandrill's Forked Bolt Denial. Definitely something I'm interested in. We're going to get our clock down. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Also, Vapor Snag is not a good card against burn. Being able to get even a decent use out of it makes me ecstatic. Let's take that out. 2 damage. We're going to pay red. Do I actually want to get an island? We might get a forest, but I don't think it's relevant. Neither one actually is particularly relevant. Let's just get an island. Blue's important and stuff. Special, delve the graveyard. Hopefully we can denial a non-zero amount of burn spells, clock them with mandrills, and get this game closed. If they crack that Mesa, mandrills is a 4-turn clock, which makes me pretty happy. Looks like good stuff. I'm pretty happy with how this is shaping out. They aren't cracking the Mesa. They might be holding it for a Searing Blaze? Searing Blaze. Searing Blaze? It is Searing Blaze, right? Yeah, Searing Blood is the other one. I'm correct. Extremely doubtful of myself, but correct nonetheless. Our opponent might be flooding out here. That's okay. Tarmogoyf's pretty good. There are no instants in the graveyard yet, meaning that it cannot be bolted. Well, I mean, you can bolt it, but not in a way that is particularly favorable. That means we can clock and block. Ooh, clock and block. That is a fantastic phrase. I love that. That needs to be a thing. We're going to play this Stomping Ground tapped. We don't need more mana. So we may as well save on life. Is there any way it's even relevant for us to have 5 mana? I don't think so. Oh my god, no. No, don't do it. Oh, that makes me sad. Unless they have another lightning bolt. They don't. So, our opponent, I guess, just doesn't know the Goyf bolt interaction. Instants and sorceries that don't say destroy on them don't destroy things. We can use our lightning bolt for reference. This deals 3 damage, just in case you guys don't know this. I'm sure almost everybody does, but for those of you who don't, this is very important information. Lightning bolt deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Tarmogoyf's power is equal to the number of card types among yada 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 graveyard. Its toughness is that number plus 1. So Tarmogoyf's toughness is 1 plus the number of card types in graveyards. In that case, we had sorceries and we had creatures. 2 card types. Goyf was a 2/3. That means Bolt can kill it because Bolt kills things with 3 toughness. But Lightning Bolt goes to the graveyard before the game checks state-based actions. If Lightning Bolt was Terminate, before Lightning Bolt hits the graveyard, it would put Goyf into the graveyard, because before it finishes resolving, Goyf is destroyed and goes to the graveyard. For a burn spell to resolve, it deals 3 damage, it says, okay, my job's done, I'm going to the graveyard now. By the time the game checks how much toughness and how much damage Goyf has, Goyf is now a 3/4 because there's an instant in the graveyard. Which means Goyf is a 3/4 with 3 damage marked on it. Goyf is perfectly alive and well. That's something people on Reddit like to joke about, but it's definitely relevant. Let's sideboard against burn just in case our opponent didn't just quit the match, because that's something that's been happening quite a bit lately to me, and I'm certainly a non-zero degree salty about it. We're going to board in these 5. A lot of our cards are pretty mediocre against burn. Vapor Snag doesn't deal with creatures, especially not ones as cheap as burn plays. EE's too slow, too draw dependent, not being on the draw, but more if they don't have a bunch of creatures, EE's garbage. Blood Moon can be okay, you can cut them off of some stuff, but I'm not a fan of spending 3 mana worth of tempo for that effect. I think Anger is just a little too expensive for what it does. They don't have colorless spells, and I'm not looking to board in that kind of hate. These cards are good. Sweepers are pretty good against them. Pyroclasm is at least somewhat better than Anger because it's cheaper. And it's better than EE because, well, it's also cheaper. I think we're just going to board out the Scours, actually. I like boarding out a non-zero amount of mana leak on the draw, so we're probably going to board like that. Pyroclasm's not bad on the draw because they're more likely to have more creatures by the time you play it. Pyroclasm I just talked about. Huntmaster's something I like. Huntmaster gains some life, makes some bodies, can close out a game, and Spell Snare's pretty good against them. Alright, we are back after... well, that's not important. We had a pause. Now we're back. This hand looks pretty good against burn. We don't have a clock, which is certainly something to keep an eye out for, and I'm definitely casting this Bauble before their second turn, because I do not want them to have an Eidolon on the board when we play it. However, we can bolt their first thing, possibly Pyroclasm multiple things. Turn 1 is looking like Bauble, play Visions. possibly off of a fetch, but I kind of don't want to. Our opponent suspends a Rift Bolt for turn 1. Do I not have the image for Rift Bolt? That seems really specific and weird. What do we got? Hopefully it's something good. Mandrills. Mandrills is pretty good. So sooner or later we're going to get our clock down. Ideally it's going to be sooner. That kind of makes me want to fetch. Although if our opponent's hand is a bunch of burn spells, we're probably in bad shape doing that. Then again, we can try to scry and bauble into a counter spell. So that's not bad. If we fetch here, that's 1 card. Visions is 2 cards. Bauble's 3 cards. Next turn we bolt something that puts 4 cards. I kind of actually want another red source. So I think we're going to start on Steam Vents here for the Visions, so that we can get a second red source for multiple bolts. Having Goyf is fantastic. I don't think I want any more burn spells. We have creatures covered, and I'm not sure I want another land, so let's bottom that as well. We're just going to play this Bauble. We don't necessarily need to crack it yet, but we definitely want to play it before they can resolve an Eidolon. Then again, there's always the fact that we could Pyroclasm away the Eidolon, bolt the Eidolon, then play the Bauble, but I'd rather not have to deal with that sort of thing. Rift Bolt is going to go face. Can they? They could technically target themselves, but there's no way they're going to do that. Them not starting on a creature is pretty good for us. Burn's best hands are when they play a creature or two, get in, I don't know, 4, 6, 8 damage that way, and then just finish you off with burn spells. Burning someone out actually isn't that fast. I mean, what if you have 7 lightning bolts? Bolt on 1, 2 bolts on 2, 3 bolts on 3. That's still a turn 4 kill, unless they fetch shock, something like that. So realistically, you're not actually killing them that quickly if you don't have creatures. The nice thing about creatures is they can do more damage. So Swift Spear hits for 1. Next turn, Swift Spear might hit for 2. The turn after, maybe it hits for 2 again. You got 5 damage out of your 1 CMC spell. That's pretty good. It's not really relevant to look at what we're drawing, given that we're just going to draw it anyways, and there's no decision to be made with regards to it. So I think we're just going to look at what they're looking at. Even though they can fetch it away, it's somewhat more relevant. Goblin Guide is interesting. We're going to draw. Pyroclasm's definitely not what we want to see here. I might actually just slam a Tarmogoyf. That doesn't seem so bad. Next turn we can go for some Pyroclasm shenanigans. Do we want a shock? I guess we have to. Let's get a breeding pool. Yeah, we need a green source. I would have liked to get double red at some point. Maybe we should have kept the Stomping Ground, but keeping another land seems at least somewhat loose when we really don't need it. Maybe if we already had Snap in hand, I'm more likely to do it, but right now, I just want to stabilize. Let's get some graveyards up. Our opponent fetched away the Goblin Guide, which means we're probably not going to bother doing any Pyroclasming, but we may very well bolt that Swift Spear. If they swing, I think we block. There's a good chance that our Goyf goes down due to that, but that means they gave up Swift Spear plus a burn spell, and that's really good for us. I'm okay with our Goyf being a 2-mana preemptively, or I guess not quite preemptively because the Swift Spear was already resolved, but it basically counters 2 spells in a somewhat proactive manner, which is pretty good. Really good, in fact. Definitely something I'm okay with. Sorcery, artifact, land in the graveyard so far, and both of us play quite a few instants. So Goyf has a lot of room to grow here. Our opponent looks like they're thinking long and hard on whether or not they want to swing. Actually, our clock's going down. That's bad because that means Xmage is lagging. There we go. They are swinging. We're going to block like I said. If they have 2 burn spells... no, if they have 2 burn spells, we're still in decent shape because they bolt Goyf twice. Lightning Helix, not bad because it does gain them life. Regardlessly, so that's not quite a 2-for-1 for us. It's more of a 1.5-for-1. We still got a burn spell out of their hand and Swift Spear off the board. So I'm pretty okay with it. We're going to follow up with a Mandrills. If we can hold up Lightning Bolt, that'd be fantastic. Chances are we can't. We need a land in order to do that. Second Mandrills kind of looking really bad here, given how much we're going to eat this graveyard. Now I wouldn't mind having a Thought Scour. Did I click too fast? So we didn't hit the Serum Visions the first time we tried delving. That's fine. Probably just went too fast. Xmage didn't register it. That's okay. We have plenty of time on our clock. It's a little awkward that we're not going to be able to play this second Mandrills because, as we did with the first game, I would like to clock and block, but we could always just swing with the Mandrills, hold up Lightning Bolt. That seems like a perfectly serviceable line, so it's probably what we're going to do. Pyroclasm looking exceptionally bad given that they had a creature light draw. But their creature-heavy draws are sometimes very difficult for us to deal with, so I don't really mind it. I wonder if we block this Goblin Guide here. Because if we do... Okay, so they're not swinging. I was going to say, if we block it, they can use a burn spell to finish off Mandrills, which means we're not going to have a threat for a while, which I'm not really excited about. Let's see what we draw. I believe we're just going to bolt Goblin Guide and get in there. If we draw a red shock, I don't think we bother playing it. The forest is fine. Puts us closer to Huntmaster of the Fells. Puts us closer to Snap Bolt, which are definitely things I'm interested in. I probably would have preferred a mountain, just because the red mana looks way better than the extra green right now. It also gets us a little closer to casting the second Mandrills. I don't think that's likely to come up. If they play a creature, we might decide to just Snapcaster Mage to chump block. I'm not sure. Having the second bolt makes it somewhat unlikely that we do that, but I don't know. I guess we'll just play by ear. Like I said, or started saying before, I'm 90% sure I interrupted myself while talking about how good Pyroclasm is, because that's just something I do on a regular basis. Path is fine. Path is definitely good against us. I'm going to get a mountain because I want my second red source. And I even just did it again. That's how bad I am at staying on one train of thought. I interrupted myself talking about interrupting myself so that I could talk about what was going on in the game. Anyways, Pyroclasm looks exceptionally bad right now, but I'm pretty okay with that because they had a pretty creature-like draw. They're scared. The draws out of burn that we have the most trouble dealing with are the ones where they go turn 1 Goblin Guide, turn 2, 2 more Goblin Guides, and then burn, 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 burn. Because it's pretty easy to fall behind on tempo when they do that. Their creatures are as efficient as can be, and it's kind of hard to deal with them without getting behind on tempo. We're probably going to bolt, snap, bolt here, because we really don't have anything else to do. I actually might even just bolt, bolt to leave something in the graveyard so we can get a mandrills down, but I'm not sure. We may very well just be dead if they have a few burn spells in hand, but we did our best, so I don't mind that. We haven't seen any counter spells yet, although we didn't exactly have a bunch of counters or cantrips that we drew this game, so I can't even complain about variance. We just didn't have the stuff, basically. So if we double bolt instead of bolt, snap, bolt, that means we can play a mandrills delving the 2 bolts, which isn't bad. If we play the mandrills, and then next turn we can bolt, snap, bolt in addition to swinging, that doesn't actually close out the game. It does give us a blocker, I guess that's okay. If we draw a counterspell, I'm a lot likely to want to tap out for the mandrills. We did not. Does that help us at all? It is entirely possible we want the extra mana. I also am pretty happy to not crack that fetch, given that we're at 8, and it's pretty relevant every point of life that you lose against burn. So until it seems that we need that, I'm not going to touch it. I will play it though, it gives us more options. Maybe we really need to fetch a Shockland tapped here so that we get more red sources, I don't know. Boros Charm, yup, that's going to resolve. Puts us down to 4. Boros Charm is one of the main reasons you don't want to go down from 8 to 7. Boros Charm is 4 damage, puts you down to 3 if you're at 7, and then you're in bolt range. And as we've seen, Rift Bolt, Lightning Helix, Lightning Bolt, Lava Spike, all cards that deal 3 damage. I'm not really happy being in a spot where 16, well, I guess they're probably not running 4 Rift Bolts and 4 Lightning Helix, but probably at least 12 of their cards kill you when you're at 3, and that's not a good spot to be in. The fact that they're fetching is quite terrifying because that means they have stuff. Lightning Bolt. We can no longer crack our fetch, and they have another burn spell. Skullcrack, that'll do. We're heading into game 3 against burn. Let's board out some Pyroclasm, bring in Mana Leak. I wonder, do I want 1 Pyroclasm? Maybe. I mean, the card's not bad. That game, it obviously was bad. Maybe we cut Knuckleblade? It's a little mana intensive. Let's cut Knuckleblade. I'm okay with that, I think. What do we want over Knuckleblade? Thought Scour? Give us a little more velocity? Or Pyroclasm? Thought Scour or Pyroclasm? Which one's better? We're almost certainly good for our shoal count. 4, 7, 10, 11, 12, 16, even without the Thought Scour. Shoal is mostly for pitching to 1 in this matchup, as it is for most matchups, because, like I said earlier, most of the games you lose against burn are because they had a bunch of Goblin Guides, but also when they just go Goblin Guide, Lava Spike, Lava Spike, Lava Spike, Lava Spike, that's pretty bad for us because it's hard to interact with all of that. Once again, they're all so efficient. Disrupting Shoal is pretty good for catching up on the tempo. So I do want to keep as many 1 CMC spells as possible. I think I want to try having a Pyroclasm. I don't think I've ever run it on the play. Maybe we just take the Thought Scour instead. It's probably more conservative. Pyroclasm definitely has more risk to it. Let's play Pyroclasm. Going into game 3, on the play versus burn. This hand is garbage. We don't have lands. We need lands. This hand is way better. I'm going to keep. We're probably bottoming the Huntmaster. Then again, we're going to fetch and traverse it away. It doesn't matter. I want to use Traverse now because we want to get to this Huntmaster relatively soon. We need to get a green source off of this Tarn. which is unfortunate. I'd be pretty happy if this was a Misty, because then we could just get a forest. We're going to traverse out a basic forest, though, so that we can minimize how much damage we take. It's entirely possible we could lose this game just because of how much damage we're taking here. We fetch shocked. We're probably going to shock after this for the steam vents so that we can tar fire something. I guess if they don't play a creature, we don't shock with the steam vents, because if they don't play a creature here, we don't necessarily want to tar fire right away, and shocking is probably about as much damage you're going to take from leaving a creature on the board for a turn. So if they don't play a creature, we're probably just not going to shock. If they have a creature, we basically take the same amount of damage and delay us that 1 mana. They have the creature, so we are going to be tar firing here. We'd end up with just 2 mana on turn. We'd have... Next turn is turn 2, so if we played the steam vents tapped, we'd end up not using it on turn 2, and then turn 3 we'd have 2 mana instead of 3 mana because we have to tar fire, given that we didn't shock on turn 2 to use it. So, worst case scenario, you take the same amount of damage doing that, and you just delay your land drop essentially. But not in the exponential way that land drops get delayed, because you've still played the land. I'm pretty sure we want a Forked Bolt here, just because the tar fire is an instant. Gives us more options down the line. Given that they did play a creature, though, I'm just going to shock and deal with it, because I don't want to end up taking more damage from them having this creature. If they play a... Oh, I clicked the wrong one. Misclicks are bad. If... Well, no, I guess there's no point in the instant speed. However, if we did play the correct burn spell, then if they played a creature on their 4th turn, we could tar fire on their end step and then curve into Huntmaster. As is, we want to Forked Bolt this anyways on our turn, so I guess it's not a big deal that we clicked the wrong one. Perfectly fine. Not great that we're going down to 9, but perfectly fine. It's entirely possible we just lose this game. I'm pretty likely to just get a Shockland tapped, or I could just get a basic island if I want to conserve life total, playing the forest first. I don't really mind giving them the information there. We can... No, they don't have any 0 CMC spells. There's nothing to shoal here. Disrupting Shoal's kind of been really bad here. Normally it's a bit better. Usually Disrupting Shoal is just bad if you have 2 or 3 in your hand, because then it drains all of your cards and you just don't have enough gas to deal with all their stuff. That goes for Burn and plenty of other decks. Another Swift Spear, that's alright. So we're going to go down to 8. We do want to crack this fetch because I very much want to cast Huntmaster. If they have a Skullcrack, it's entirely possible we're just going to lose on the spot because of them stopping the life gain, but there's not really anything we can do about that. We are going to go down to 7. Not a good spot to be. Here's a Rift Bolt. They don't have Skullcrack up, unless they have a land drop. They didn't play a land, which means they almost certainly have 2 action spells in hand. Most likely 2 CMC ones. Let's get another red source just in case. Triple blue, triple green. We'll get triple blue. It's probably not relevant, but it might be. We are at 7, hopefully curving out this Huntmaster. We hit Delver, so we can shoal something after, which isn't bad. Huntmaster is probably enough card advantage to carry us, provided that we just don't die in the interim. So I don't mind giving up all the fuel we have in the tank so that we could survive long enough for Huntmaster to win the game. They don't have Skullcrack up, which is fantastic. We go up to 9. We make a couple bodies. We can block Swift Spear with the Wolf. I'm pretty sure we're going to give up the wolf, even if they have the prowess trigger. Here's path. That's bad for us. We're probably going to just show that. I think we do. Huntmaster's really powerful here. They also only have the one other card in hand. So that's not bad. I think we just want to get our Huntmaster to stick here. It's going to give us a pretty big advantage over the course of the game. We're going to show this. Turns out they're playing Boros Burn. We haven't seen a green source yet. So Disrupting Shoal, pay alternative cost, select spell, select card to pitch, and we have nothing to do, so we may as well just give up all priority. Swift Spear gets a useless prowess trigger. I'm okay with that. Rift Bolt comes off. Oh, that's going to take out Huntmaster anyways. And Swift Spear gets the prowess. That kind of sucks. Maybe knowing that the Rift Bolt is on suspend, you don't save the Huntmaster. But then they Rift Bolt the Wolf. Swift Spear's prowess hits you. It's a pretty bad spot regardlessly. You go down to 7 on an empty board, but then you have Shoal and Delver in hand, which really isn't great given that you have an empty board. It's probably just a lose-lose scenario. We're in a bad spot, that's for sure. Not using our mana efficiently on all of those turns leading up to casting Huntmaster definitely hurt us. On turn 1 we used 1 mana. On turn 2 we used 1 mana. On turn 3 we used 1 mana. That's a lot of tempo to fall behind when your opponent's going turn 1, Swift Spear, turn 2, Lava Spike, turn 3, Swift Spear, suspend Rift Bolt, I think? So I guess they didn't use their mana that well either. Do we chump here? I think we do. We do have a chance at staying alive even if we don't chump, but I'm pretty sure we just need to not die. Hopefully we can top deck something good to get us out of this. I want to give us enough chances to top deck that. Denial certainly is not the card I was thinking of. If we top deck a Mandrills or a Goyf, it will definitely be amazing. However, we need that very soon because the burn deck has a lot of reach. Sort of its namesake, burn spells. You might have heard of them. They include Lava Spike, Rift Bolt, Lightning Helix, Lightning Bolt, Boros Charm, Skullcrack. That's at least 5 different ones they play. They have a lot of reach. That's one reason why maybe you don't want to block with the Wolf token, but we're not winning the race anyways, so it doesn't matter. We can't denial that. If they try to hardcast a Rift Bolt, we can denial it. If they have a Boros Charm, we're basically just dead. Once again, I would love to top deck a Mandrills because it allows us to block the Swift Spear and turns on this denial. So big fatty, here we go. Goyf, the biggest of fatties. So we top decked at least decently. That's good. We're still probably dead, but we're on the road to success. We play Goyf. They probably aren't going to be attacking with the Swift Spear, which is awkward because we need to simultaneously kill them before they draw burn spells while being able to deal with Swift Spear. So we're still basically in a really bad spot. A second Goyf would put us through the roof. Them playing a fetch land is pretty good for us. I guess they're playing around us having mana leak. That's probably the most likely scenario. Otherwise, I don't see a reason for them to play that land. Our opponent's flooded at least somewhat. Burn usually doesn't see that many spells. Then again, what turn is it? Xmage log says turn 12, meaning that was their 6th turn? I believe that. Turn 13 is us. Our 7th turn. Misty Rainforest is hot garbage. So if we swing and they have 2 burn spells, we're dead because we can only counter 1. If we don't swing, we give them more time to draw those 2 burn spells. I think we just have to attack here. It's god-awful, but I think we just have to attack. It's a rock and a hard place to be sure. A catch-22. It's a trade-off. It's certainly a trade-off. I do think it's our best line, though. We kill them in 3 turns, and we basically have to hope to either top deck some good stuff or just fade a bunch of draws. We can counter the first burn spell with Denial, which isn't bad. Here's Deflecting Palm. Now we have to counter that, because otherwise we're taking 5 and we are dead. So they basically had 1 burn spell there. Deflecting Palm acts as a burn spell because we had to counter it. If it was a burn spell, we'd be dead. If we didn't have the Denial, we had to use the Denial on it. So, if they top deck a burn spell, we lose. If they don't, we have a chance. Deflecting Palm did basically say, you win the game. So, we couldn't let that resolve. If they have a creature, we're in a bad spot, but it's not the end of the world because we're not dead immediately. I just want them to hit a land. It's pretty unlikely. They probably run 20 or so lands in the deck. Are we dead? They waited for us to untap, so hopefully not. We hit Visions. They're probably going to bolt us if they have it in response. We found another Goyf with Bolt on top. We're still dead to a burn spell, but we're not dead to just the Swift Spear. Do we attack here? No, we can deal with the Swift Spear anyways with Goyf number 2. Unless they have Path. Do I want to survive Path? It gives them an extra turn. I don't think I like that. Chances are we're very, very dead. But we've been very, very dead for a couple of turns, so I don't really mind the risk involved. We're going to slam Goyf. Pretend we have Stubborn Denial up. Even though we know for a fact that we don't. Another very good reason to not... They ran out of time. I didn't even see their clock. They ran out of time. That's the lamest conclusion I've ever seen. I don't even care if we won. That sucks. Anyways, they ran out of time. They had at least 1 more turn to top deck a burn spell. They didn't block, which means they were at 4. So if they played a creature, if they top decked a creature, and then they decided to block both Goyfs, or that was their game plan, we bolt one of the creatures and we win, but they still had a card in hand when we were casting that Goyf. So it's entirely possible they had the win and they were just being cautious with it. It's also possible they just whiffed on a few draws and we would have won that game regardlessly. Anyways, a bit of an anticlimactic conclusion, but what are you gonna do? I would have been a lot happier about that if there was actually something on the line. As is, with 0 risk involved in the games, I would much rather have just a good clean game of Magic. But there's nothing we can do about the clock running out. Our opponent just had to play faster. Anyways, hopefully you all enjoyed that video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.